Welcome to Talking Halos here in the Blue Wire Sports Network. I'm here with Jared Timms and Nate Green to give our first post regular season podcast talking about some of the news and notes about the Los Angeles Angels. And right away, right off the bat, two newsworthy things that go on this week. I think we'll cover the first one because it's previous, and that is Herman telling us that Anthony Rendon is going to have to earn his spot next year. Where do we want to go with that, Nate?
Yeah, that's kind of good to hear out of Perry because it seems like depth has been an issue for the Angels, and there really hasn't been a guy to play third base when Rendon gets hurt, or a guy to play third base when Rendon is healthy and hitting 206 or whatever it was. So I think it's good for the Angels. It's good for them long term to have a backup plan. And honestly, this is what I was saying too, is the Angels should just go out and basically pretend that Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout aren't on the team and just build the team without those two guys. So when Trout and Rendon play, if those guys put up numbers, like, that's great. If you build a team around Trout playing 150 games and Trout doesn't play, your team shot. If you build a team around Rendon playing 150 games, which no shot he will, again, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. So I think this is good that Perry is wanting to build the team around like some other guys, and letting Trout and Rendon just kind of play a part on the team and not be the key piece to the team.
Jared?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to be like, oh, Alex Bregman, Alex Bregman, Alex Bregman. You don't need just a third baseman. There's going to be those people. Just want to throw that out there. And Arte Moreno might be one of those people. I know we're going to talk about him here soon, and he might be one of those people that say, hey, wouldn't Alex Bregman make a lot of sense? Let's just clear this up right now. Don't go get just a straight third baseman. You need somebody that can play the entire infield. I mean, even if you want to say Luis Renifo's that guy, that's totally fine. I'm fine with that. But you still need a Jeimer Candelario type of guy who can play, 3, maybe 4 infield positions. And hopefully he's going to hit 270 with 20 bombs, 25 bombs for you during the season. So that's where the Angels need to get a little better, along with being a lot healthier. But yeah, as far as that Anthony Rendon news goes, I know we talked about it just a little bit in the last podcast. I was still a little surprised to hear Perry say that. You don't hear a lot of GMs, come out and say that type of stuff to the public. I know he has kind of done it in the past. I mean, he let go of a lot of high, value players. Justin Upton and Albert Pujols are two of the ones that come to mind right off the bat. I don't know, maybe Anthony Rendon is that next one. But yeah, I Anthony Rendon's a key piece if he's healthy. Like even if he's batting 208, Anthony Rendon in the Angels lineup is still, I think, better than most. I know even if he's hitting 208, like I said, I just think the bat in the lineup is better than most. So you have to hope he's healthy. But I'm intrigued to see what they do with that spot, and I hope they don't just go get a straight third baseman type of guy.
Is Anthony Rendon washed?
I mean,
Is
no, he's been fine when he's been
Not this year.
not this year. I'll say that. Not this year, but when he's been on the field prior to this year, he's been a productive baseball player prior to this year. That's fine. You can go look at the stats. Like even 2020, when he was completely healthy, played 58 games or something like that.
52.
52, whatever it was. Put an asterisk next to it. I mean, had the highest WAR in the AL that year, or pretty dang close to the highest WAR in the AL that year. So, yeah, he's still a productive baseball player. He's getting older for sure. He's lost a step for sure. Is he washed? No, he just, needs to stay healthy, and he needs to, like most people, just stay out of the media and not do any interviews this offseason and say that baseball is too long. He just needs to lay low, get healthy, and, get back to being, even if he's 50% of what he was with the Nationals. I mean, if he can be a 3-win player at third base, I mean, the Angels have something good working there. So I don't know if that's going to ever happen again, but we'll see.
He's never been a 3-win player as an Angel.
2.7?
2.5 was the highest he ever was. And we could play this really fun game of players to hit more home runs than Anthony Rendon this year, like Aaron Hicks, and just some random people that have just hit one homer and did not get 238 ABs like Anthony Rendon. So, is he washed? I think the biggest problem for Anthony Rendon is not that his talent is not there. I don't think he likes coming to work. I mean, he's kind of said that as well. And it's really, really hard to be good at a job when you don't like coming to work. Like Bryce Harper, I think that guy will never suck at baseball because he
is your answer different if he doesn't say the stuff in the media to the media?
I think it's always been known that he doesn't like baseball. Like baseball is not what he like. We've known this when he got drafted out of Rice, was like, oh hey, he's really good at baseball, but he doesn't love baseball. Almost like didn't who was the reliever who said it with the Angels a couple years ago? Like in college and in the pros, he kind of said the same thing where he was like, "Hey, I'm just really good at baseball, but I don't love baseball." And I think that's what Anthony Rendon has been known for his entire life. Is like, I've just been better than everyone else at baseball, but I'm not like, I don't love playing baseball every single day. I love doing other things. So I think when you're 34 years old and you've had a lot of issues with other things and you have to continue to go to work and you hate work, it's going to make your production go down. I think that's how it works in life and in any job, not just Major League Baseball.
I don't know that he doesn't like going to work. I mean, there's certain things I do because it's required. Doesn't mean I hate it. But I would say this: when you've gone now 5 years without playing a full 140 games plus in a season, and you've had injury after injury after injury, it would be harder to get up for playing that game. And moreover, when you look at the overall numbers, this is why I asked if you guys think he's washed, because if you look 2020, 2024, even because of the strike, that's still 5 years that he has not played a full major league schedule. Imagine think of the things that happen to your timing and to your reflexes over the course of 5 years of not doing it on a full-time basis. This year at 238 play appearances, no home runs. Extrapolate that over a full season, it's still no home runs. Go 249 in 2021. That's 498 if, for most players get about 530, 540 play appearances. He's still going to get less than 20 home runs that year. So when you have a quarter position, you'd expect a prime third baseman in the league to get between 25 and 30 home runs a year. He's not going to sniff that. He was never that guy. He hasn't sniffed that.
He was never that guy.
He was a guy who would get,
20, he was 20 to 25.
So 25, 24, 34. So even that's enough to be around 25 in his prime years. 25, 24, 34. That was 2017, 2018, 2019. He's not even sniffing that, though. That's my point. So when we're asking if he's washed, he hasn't hit above 240 since 2020. I think he is. There's no evidence otherwise. Can't stay healthy. Hasn't hit about 240. Isn't hitting for power. What's the evidence that he isn't?
I mean, there are a couple numbers you could point to. His strikeout rate has been the same as it's been his entire career. So he's not striking out more than he has. His walk rate is around the same as it's been his entire career. His average exit velo is a little lower than what it's been in years past, but it's close. And the max exit velo, like the hardest ball he's hit all year, is right around the hardest ball he's ever hit in his life, which he hit a ball about 110 this year, and his hardest ball he's ever hit is 111. So there's still a good quality baseball player in there from the numbers, but it's just hard when you're not making a lot of contact and you're not I don't know. I just don't know if he really wants to be there. I think that's the biggest thing.
Production wise. Okay, you can look at exit velocity, so on and so forth. That's fine. But what are you producing when you are in the field and you are healthy? Let alone the fact that he's not been healthy. And that would be my argument. that would point towards his wash. We can look at the metrics. That's fine, and you make good points, but we're talking about just sheer production. It's not there, unfortunately. I'm not trying to hammer the guy. It's an honest question. He's 34 years old with 4 years of injuries across the board and had some injury history before he even signed. Jared?
I got nothing else on it. I mean, I hate talking about somebody who's not been on who's played 100 and 200 games in the last 5 years for the Angels. I think it's rough, and at the end of the day, it's interesting that Perry Minasian said these things. But yeah, I mean, if you think you're going to contend next year, the year after, you got to find production somewhere. And obviously, it's not coming from someone who's on the field for no matter how many home runs he hits, no matter what his exit velocity is, no matter how many, if he likes to work or not. It's you need somebody that can be productive on the field if you think you're going to contend. And I can't be a guy like Eric Wagaman, unfortunately, even though he was very good. It can't be those type of guys. You need to get some legitimate production from third base and a lot of other positions too. So, I mean, in a whole, sure, I mean, Anthony Rendon, the name, the contract, it's tough. But I mean, if you want the Angels to win, you got to find production.
Well, that leads us to, I shouldn't know if we even get that long to talk about because we start talking about Rendon the whole time. And that is Artie's interview with Jeff Fletcher. And some of the notes coming out of it are interesting. The big one here is that the belief is that Artie's saying he wants to spend more money next year. Okay. He wants to compete. Only going to see he gets a better offer. Okay. So where do we start here? How about going to spend more money? Nate, I know you're chomping at the bit for this one, buddy.
I was just gonna say, can we just say all of this is what he says every year? Like, let's be honest. Like, every businessman ever will say, like, I'm not gonna sell my company unless you blow me away with an offer. Like, I'm not gonna sell it at market value. You've got to beat it, right? Like, every businessman everywhere says that. Every GM every year, hey, we want to compete. We want to win a World Series. We want to make the playoffs. Artie has said that since the day he's got here, and he says it every single year. And we are 10 years without seeing a playoff. So I'm not putting too much stock into those comments. The comment that I do find interesting is they are going to spend more money. I think you look at some of the numbers, the Angels were pretty close in total attendance this year than they were last year with Shohei Ohtani on the team. So I wonder if a little bit of it, and I know Jared's going to be pissed because him and I talked about this, but I think the Artie was like expecting the attendance numbers to drop way more than they did. And the fact that they stood right around where they were with Ohtani kind of lets him know, like, hey, I can spend a little bit more money and still make money. Because that's the name of the game for Artie, right? Is he wants to make money. So he cut payroll this year to make sure that he would still make money. He found out, hey, I can still make money making, I think his number is probably around 190 to 200. Maybe if the Angels are really good, he'll go up to 210, but I don't see him getting above that unless the Angels are like, 82 wins in July, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is the best Angels team in ever, and we need one more piece to put us over the edge, which I'm not expecting that to happen. But yeah, I think that this is very much a typical offseason from what we hear with Artie, except for last year where he didn't really mention anything about the payroll.
He said it was going to go down
for the most part. Huh?
Didn't he say it was going to go down last year?
No, he never really mentioned that because he wanted to leave the door open with Shohei Ohtani, because he wanted to at least say, like, hey, we're going to try everything we can to keep Shohei. Didn't do it, and then it was like, okay, this is pretty obvious that the Angels are going to not spend as much money. But I mean, every offseason he basically says the same thing.
Yeah, and I don't see him really. If I put myself in his shoes, I'm in no hurry to spend money on salary. I wish he'd be in more of a hurry to spend on the system and the development of players the lower levels. That's where I wish he put money in. But why would you go spend money right now when the team just won 63 games and you're gonna go out there and who are you gonna sign that's gonna really make a difference at this point? I mean, you can go out there and get a Corbin Burns who's shown some signs of slowing down a little bit this year. Juan Soto will be the guy we talked about before, but I mean that would be who wouldn't go after Juan Soto? I guess that's the one we'd all think you would go after. But other than that, like who's a game changer to really make a difference for a 63 win team? So
But that's the
I don't know the logic of that.
But that's the problem, Dirk. You can't think about it as one guy, like one guy's going to fix this team. Look at what Kansas City did this last offseason. Kansas City was in a very similar situation as the Angels. And please, please do not take this out of context. I'm not going to say the Angels are going to be the Kansas City Royals of next year, where Kansas City made the playoffs this year. But let's look at what Kansas City did. They went out and signed Seth Lugo. Not an ace pitcher, but a quality pitcher who's going to eat innings. They went out and signed Michael Wacha. Again, another guy who's probably a 3, but has pitched in some big games, has pitched pretty well. They went out and signed Adam Frazier to be a veteran middle infielder. They went out and signed Hunter Renfroe to be an outfielder, which sadly enough, Hunter Renfroe had a very bad year, but his production was like 2 times the amount of production they had gotten from their outfielders in the last 5 years combined. Then at the deadline, they go and get Paul DeJong and Michael Lorenzen, and you can go on Tommy Pham, and they signed Garrett Hampson beforehand. They signed the secret weapon in Will Smith, who seems to find his way into the playoffs every year and win a World Series his last 3. So like you can't think about the Angels as needing to sign one guy to fix this team, but if the Angels are able to spend $60 million and get 5 or 6 players, there's a chance that this team's competitive. Not saying that this team's going to be winning 90 games or 85 games or whatever, but like at least not what they were in September, where it's like this team was even this literally wasn't even a AA team on the field in September. It was awful.
All right, so hold on, back up here. Look at the actual Royals roster beforehand. Guys they still had back. You have your star and Bobby Witt Jr. You have Salvador Perez. Okay, you have Michael Garcia. So you already had a established core with one young star already there, and Jim Melendez is decent. You already had young guys who were there on the roster, ready to go. Then go out there and make these moves. Smart moves, good moves. You're right. Okay, we're talking about an Angels core right now with nothing behind them that is ready-made in the farm system. At least the Royals that rebuilt their farm system. Oh, and by the way, Cole Reagans.
That was a huge trade for them at the end.
Cole Reagans an ace. And Seth Lugo, by the way, comes in and has the season of his life for much of the year. I mean, he pitched like an ace for much of the year. A lot of things went right for the Royals this year. And for the Angels, a lot of things have to go right, which nothing wrong with that. I'm simply saying, if you're going to go out in free agency and spend money and do what you got to do, I, as a person who be thinking baseball wise, you want to set yourself up for the long term, I would rather invest the money within the system. Of course, they're not going to do that. That's my problem. So it doesn't matter to me how much he talks about in terms of, hey, player development is not the big part here. His part is let's always the free agents spend some money, but their record of spending money is lackluster, to say the least. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just don't have a lot of faith that they're going to go out there and spend the money on right guys. Because Arte never really has been great at that. I'd rather
Perry hasn't been good either.
No. So to me, if you're talking about spending money, I would much rather see them go and fix stuff going on under the hood long term, which we know they just won't do because they've had years to do it. That's the cynicism that comes in, the pessimism. And Jared just quietly listening.
Because he wants to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. So let's let him do it.
So do I. For the record, I do. I would love to see something change. And I would, but it's just like, okay, well, is there anybody in the free agency list right now who I would like to see him go get? That's part of a turnaround. Sure, but Nate?
Jared, let's hear Jared. Yeah.
I meant to say Jared. Elvis at the bit.
To contend next year, just to let's say we're talking about contending, right? Would you say that the Red Sox contended this year?
Yes.
All right. Would we say that the Tampa Bay Rays contended this year?
Unfortunately, that's a tough one for me because they kind of sold at the deadline, but yeah, they ended up being way closer to contending than they should have been.
Okay. So contending this year was an 81 win team. The Angels had 66 wins last year. Is the free agent market going to yield a playoff team next year? What do the Angels have to do to be a playoff team next year? That's my question.
85, 86 wins to have a
I'm
shot.
just saying. I mean, already used the term contend, right? And the Tampa Bay contend. I know we want to be a playoff team, but I baby steps. We got to contend first.
Well, when you're talking about contending, I mean, I think the better word would be competitive.
What do you mean
Competitive to me is competitive is around between 78 and 83, 84.
That's fine.
We're not even competitive right now.
Be competitive. I mean, they won 66 games this year. How do you? I mean, is the free agent market all of a sudden going to yield a playoff team?
63, dude.
Yeah,
What?
63, but it doesn't matter.
66, same thing.
At that point, it doesn't matter.
Does the free agent market all of a sudden yield 20 wins? Like you're gonna have to find another way to find 20 wins to contend next year. As weird as that's gonna sound, like that's gonna be my thing this whole offseason is how do you make up 20 games? How do you win 20 more games? How do you lose 20 less games than you did last year?
Is it illegal to make trades? I mean, like we're only sitting here talking about the free agent market, and there are teams that are going to be able to make trades. There are teams that are
absolutely.
We have pieces to.
But who are you
get rid of?
Who are you going to trade? What pieces? Like, let's talk about this a little bit, or save it for next podcast. But you're talking about pieces of the trade. But I don't really have a whole lot of faith in the farm system right now that's stocked enough to go get guys you need or want.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how big you're thinking, Derek. If you're thinking the Angels are going to go out and get someone like massive, I don't think that's going to happen because they don't have that kind of. But are there quality pieces that the Angels could go get that could help them with what they have? Yeah, I mean, Reed Detmers could go get you something.
Trade Reed Detmers?
Yeah, Reed Detmers is a potential trade guy. They were at least listing on him at the deadline.
Does that make does that make the Angels better next year and in the future though?
It could. We don't know what we're getting in return, right? But like, could they be getting a young prospect that is ready, or could they be getting a guy that hasn't really been great at another place, like a Nolan Gorman?
I don't disagree with you because the Angels' track record. I mean, if history repeats itself, the Angels' track record is not very good with developing their own guys. So if you want to go get somebody for Reed Detmers, I'm fine with that, and you want to start fresh like that, like you do, in a sense, Logan O'Hoppe or any trades that you've made like that. I'm fine with that. That's fine. I'm just saying, like,
and that's the one thing Perry's done well lately is been able to make some decent trades, right? Like everyone brings up the Logan O'Hoppe trade, everyone brings up the Mickey Moniak trade, everyone brings up the Clausen for Estevez trade, and there are Reed Detmers would be a guy that could get moved. Caden Dana could be moved. Alda Gary could be moved. Like, I know that sounds dumb. People are gonna be like, they just got called up, but what are we getting in return? I don't know. Again, are you getting someone that can help the offense? Because the offense needs help. Are there starting pitchers out there like a Michael Walker, like a Seth Lugo that could help this Angels team? Obviously, those two guys are signed for 3 years, but is there guys in the free agent market that you can go get without without missing out on someone else? Like, we know we're not getting Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns said, hey, I want to be on a team that's going to be competitive. The Angels, actually, what he said was he wants to be on a playoff team for sure next year, which there's no way you're going to be able to pitch Corbin Burns on the Angels being a playoff team for sure next year. So who are the next guys? Is Jack Flaherty is an option?
Max Fried.
Like, are there some guys that aren't going to be top of the market with free agent money that are going to be possible guys? What does Shane Bieber want? Shane Bieber's coming off TJ. Is that an option where it's like, hey, you know what? We're probably not going to be very good next year. From a like, oh, we're going to win 90 games. We're not going to be a playoff team to start the year, but maybe Shane Bieber's ready by May, June, and you got yourself an ace for 5 years. and he helps set you up for the future. I just think we're writing this team off really, really quickly because Jared's over here telling us every single day that there's a skeleton, there's a team to build around,
Mhm.
and every team has a skeleton, a team to build around. Now, depending on how GMs do it and what they do, it just depends. But everyone can do things. Like we've seen teams go from last to first every year, and we've seen teams go from playoff teams to last, like where it's like, whoa. Everyone thought the White Sox did it correctly when they built their franchise up. Everyone was like, they have the best farm system, they've got the best young pieces, they have the most losses in Major League Baseball history 3 years after that happened. People thought, oh, Marlins, they're on the up and up. They missed the playoffs this year. They were so bad that their manager didn't even want to be there. So we see it all the time. Can this team be good? Yes, but it's going to take the right people, just like it always does. And can Perry and staff and Arte go get the right people? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say it's 100% going to get done because we've seen their track record. But obviously, there are guys that are going to be free agents that are potential, just like every other team goes into free agency. Some teams find hits, some teams miss all the time, and the Angels just happen to be one of those teams that have missed a lot lately. But all it takes is for 2 or 3 to hit, and we're talking about the Angels in July. Like, hey, maybe we make a couple of trades, and we are Detroit or Kansas City.
They're going to have to overpay for some of these guys, unfortunately. But it's, I mean, you mentioned Detroit. Detroit had a skeleton that was actually had been getting built for 5 years. Kansas City had a skeleton that had been getting built for 5 years.
If you look at Kansas City's skeleton, though, it's really just like the Angels.
But they have a
Like,
farm system behind them, man. They've been
no, their farm
do.
system sucks. It's literally one guy. It literally was Bobby Witt Jr. and that was it. And now they have their one other guy because they had an early pick, but like they haven't been that good at developing. They haven't had that good of a farm system. Even you mentioned Garcia. Garcia has a career OPS of 680. That's not impressive.
I'm not talking about just offense, man. How these guys fit in the team? How Miguel Garcia fits perfect for what they do there. What are the Angels trying to do? That's my question.
We don't know. We
That's
really
the
don't
problem.
know.
We never know, man.
It looks like, based on what Wash wants to do, he wants to be a team that's going to be aggressive on the base pass, and he wants to be a team that's going to play really good defense and pitch good enough. And honestly, that's what Kansas City kind of does. Like, they're not crazy good at anything. They just have pitched good enough, and they have been able to take advantage of things on the base pass. And yeah, Bobby Witt had a career year, an MVP, and he's elite. Do the Angels have that? Probably not. But if Neto takes that step forward and hits 280 next year, are we saying that's impossible? The dude hit 20 homers and stole 30 bases this year. Could he be a 25 and 40 guy next year? Is that completely out of the realm of possibility? I mean, Bobby Witt was a 30-30 guy. Yeah, he hit 330. If Neto hits 25 and steals 40, are we talking like, hey, we've got a really good shortstop? Neto finished the year the 9th best shortstop in Major League Baseball. Like, we're acting like Neto's not a potential cornerstone for this team.
No, we're not. We're just simply saying he's not Bobby Witt Jr.
Which he's not. But could he be a top 5 shortstop next year? Absolutely. It's his 3rd year in the major leagues, his 2nd year as like actually playing a full season, and his 4th year since being drafted. Like, there's a chance he gets better. I would hope he gets better.
Jared.
It's gonna be a fun offseason, a lot of good stuff going on here. I got nothing else here, man. Like, I mean, like I said, you got to make up. You're gonna have to find a way to get 20 wins in trade in this offseason if you think you're gonna contend. So my stance still remains the same. Whether it's about Perry Minasian, whether it's about Arte Moreno, nothing changes until Arte sells the team. Just sum it up right there. A little whipped cream, cherry on top for you guys.
That's the most pessimistic thing I've ever heard you say, though.
So there's a skeleton there, 100%. You know, I mean, we're talking about Zach Neto possibly being a 5-win player next year. You know, if he hits 25 bombs and steals 40 bases. You know, if guys stay healthy, you know, like what do you get out of Trout? What are you getting out of Rendon, a healthy Rendon? But we've said that each of the past 5 years too with both those guys. Like, what about a healthy Trout? What about a healthy Rendon? You know, now you're worrying about the health of Luis Renifo. You have a fun. I mean, we're going to talk about it this offseason. I mean, you get fun pitching. You have pretty fun little pitching staff there. You got a lot of young guys that throw hard. And get guys out. I mean, there's a lot of optimism about, you know, Jack Hanowitz looked really good, and you got a guy like George Clausen down in Double A who looks really good. And I mean, everybody forgets like what is Sam Bachman going to be? You know, I mean, I know he hasn't been up and things like that, and he's looked bad in Triple A, but I mean, what's Sam Bachman going to be? He was really good out of a relief role. Ben Joyce finished the season on the IL. You know, can you trust him in the ninth inning role? You know, I mean, a lot of fun questions, fun questions for this offseason. But again, in the day, you got to make up 20 wins if you think you're going to contend. Um, it's got to be a perfect offseason, just like last season has got to be. But there's a skeleton here for sure. And I'm excited to see what they do with this.
I mean, is it a nice clean skeleton you're going to buy in a store, or is it like the skeleton that came out of Jason's grave in Jason 4 or 5? That's all grimy.
Who's part of the skeleton is my question. Are you putting Mike Trout in that skeleton of players? I mean, are you putting Logan O'Hoppe? Are you putting
Can't. Well, Logan, yes. You can't put Mike in the skeleton. You have to assume he's not there.
So I mean, and you can't put Christian Moore in that skeleton. He hasn't played at the major league level. He almost blew up his knee. So there's a lot of question marks. A lot of things got to go right. You got to have a perfect offseason.
All right, listeners, what do you think? Let us know on social media at Talking Halos, at on X. Let us know individually, Jared, Nate, me. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your takes, good, bad, or indifferent. That's fine. We want to hear it. Follow Jared on X. Follow Nate at Nate Green 34. Jared, I'm having a brain moment. Your handle, please, on X.
Jared _ Timms.
Jared _ Timms.
At DC Paul, Nate Green 34. Till next time, we're out here. Have a great one.